Dr. Amanda with Straightsmile Solutions, straightsmilesolutions.com, and let's talk about ITeros. And I always have to give this disclaimer. First of all, anytime I talk about Align Technology products or services, I have to remind you I do not work for them, never have, never will, never taken a dime or a cent from them, not even a travel bonus. I make so much content about Invisalign and they don't even say thanks, but that's okay because I think it's a good product and we use it. So I'm happy to talk about things that are good. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I have watched so many practices get an ITero and just freaking crush it. We have 2 in our offices. They work if you use them properly. And I have a lot of content. You can find that all in my Straightsmile Solutions YouTube channel in the Invisalign playlist. I also have an Invisalign course workflow that's available at straightsmilesolutions.com. I tell you guys, you really can't scale Invisalign, in my personal professional opinion, unless you understand braces in phase 1 first. It just doesn't work. You're doing things backwards. You're not going to understand things. So, but that's just my opinion. I have lots of resources, like I said, happy to talk to you about it. But again, the disclaimer, I don't work for Align. What I say is just my personal opinion as a doctor who's been doing Invisalign since, I don't know, around 20 years, as well as probably either done personally or assisted virtually consulting doctors on, I don't know, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 cases in my last 20 years. A lot. Probably more aligner cases than most people in the world because you can do a lot more when you're virtual. But anyways, let's talk about how to make your ITero profitable. And this is a foolproof method. Like, you can't screw this up if you do it right. But you gotta work with your team. Your team is gonna push back. It's just normal. Unless you have the most freaking awesome team in the world, and very few of you do. I think those team members are few and far between. It's just not the same crew. It's part of the reason why I'm not going back into practice, because if I want that kind of crew, I got to spend just bank to get that kind of crew. And the cool thing about Invisalign is if you use your team properly, of course, consult your own Dental Practice Act and your state of licensure or country of licensure, you won't have to do more than 20, 30, 40 minutes worth of work on a whole case, the whole year or two, because most of it can be done by your team. Yay! So if you're doing things properly, and that makes it very, very financially successful. Okay, so I have just been like crazy taking notes on podcasts and webinars, all kind of tips I've heard about onboarding an ITero in your practice, getting started with it, getting your team acclimated to it, how to make it successful, how to sell cases. I have so much content already. Again, go to my Invisalign playlist in my YouTube channel, listen to all of that. You could put in the keyword ITero, but here's a few more tips that I don't think you'll find. And they're not all mine. I mean, no one owns these tips, they're just tips, right? Suggestions from other doctors, other people. But I think a lot of these were pretty cool. So I'm just gonna, without further ado, I'm gonna kind of rattle them off, and maybe you'll find a gem that you like that works for you. First of all, always use the Invisalign Practice app to take your photos. At least take your wide smile photo. And now they have like a little QR code when you submit the case where you can connect your phone so you can get the wide smile photo in, or you can take all your photos with the Practice app. It's actually great. Why deal with a DSLR camera? It's just one more thing you have to train your team on. Pretty cool stuff. So you can do that. And then if you can get that wide smile photo in there, it makes you able to use the outcome simulator even more powerfully because you're going to see it in their face. That's so cool. So another great suggestion is scheduling. So you need to make sure you're giving your team enough time to do these wellness scans on every single patient. Every single booty in the chair should be getting a wellness scan. You don't say, do you want an ortho consult? That is the dumbest thing to do. We don't even do that. Well, obviously, if they come into an ortho office, they know they're getting an ortho consult. But in a GP office, you don't say that. You just integrate the wellness scan into the annual visit. You can do it every 6 months, but I think year is probably fine. I mean, think of it just like, I always like to say, you probably don't do probings every 6 months. You probably do them every year, right? Of course, it depends on how you guys do things. It's fine, obviously if they're having a problem, you might do it more often, but regular healthy people, you might only do once a year. So maybe you do it on opposite. Or maybe, I think they always do an oral cancer screening, but there's certain things you might not do, or maybe you don't take bite wings every 6 months. Maybe you take them every year, right? So just alternate it with whatever else you do so that you're not doing so much stuff in one visit and just having a mini visit on the other one. But however you want to do that, right? So make sure you're giving them enough time. The biggest pushback from teams in terms of integrating this is, oh no, doctors giving me more work to do and I'm not getting paid more. Pressure, pressure, pressure. So you need to make sure you're either doing accelerated hygiene or, now remember, the hygienist does not have to do this. This can be done in most states and countries by your assistants. As a matter of fact, in some states, you don't even need to be an RDA. So you need to figure out what the rules are in your state and make sure you should be anyone should be able to take a scan. Anyone. I think there's very few, if no states where you have to have an X-ray license or anything to take an exam. I mean, you don't need to be a certified RDA, but double check because they're always changing their Dental Practice Act. I think Georgia might be one that has some weird stuff because I remember it was kind of a reaction to the whole SmileDirectClub thing and some of the other stuff that was happening. So there might be some stuff in some states. So check it out. Maybe some states you have to be a hygienist. I don't know. But check it out. Make sure you're giving them enough time. Remember, if you're getting the Lumina or the 5D, it only takes less than 2 minutes to take a scan. You should be able to get it under 2 minutes. 2 minutes. What else can you do in 2 minutes? Nothing. Clean a chair. Not even that, because you have to let the spray sit. 2 minutes. And if it's taking more than 2 minutes, they're doing something wrong. And then another minute or two to discuss it. 5 minutes max, 5 minutes. So all you got to do is give them 5 more minutes than they were already doing. So yeah, if you're giving them only 30 minutes for periodic and an hour for an NPV, well, that's not going to work. You got to give them another 15 minutes, right? So you got to figure that out. If you give them more time, they're not going to be upset. The other thing is, whenever you integrate a new thing, a lot of times staff members don't see the benefit. They're like, why do we got to do this? He's going to forget about this. And I didn't have time. No, it's the first thing you do. Why? It's the first thing you do when their butt goes in the chair. Before you do the probing, before you do the oral cancer screening or whatever else you're doing, before you go over medications, you do that. You just, hey, good, okay, have a seat. Let's go ahead and do your wellness scan. Oh, we do a 3D scan now. It's totally non-invasive. It's just a series of photos. It goes into the cloud. It's a great way for us to capture your bite so that we can look at it with you from all different angles and just see the health of your bite and smile. Just make sure they have enough time. Do it first, then you'll never have an issue of running out of time. Seat them back, do it. It's usually better to do the ITero scan when they're back. You'll get a better bite than when they're sitting up. Sometimes weird bite things happen when they sit up and they don't bite down all the way. So just a suggestion. What else? Another idea is to have a smile screening form. And I think I have one in my archives. I don't know if it's exactly what I'm talking about. I haven't looked at it or used it in a while. But it's a great idea just to make a little checklist. And this was a tip that I got on one of the webinars where it was actually really smart, actually. And I think I subconsciously have always done this anyways, but I've never actually had a form. Sometimes having a paper form is a little clunky, but you could verbally ask it too. And just say, hey, this is a question that we're asking for this year, whether it's written or verbal. But if I'm going to give you four scenarios, which one do you relate most to in terms of your smile? I think you could probably phrase that better. But my biggest concern about my smile is A, aesthetics, B, function. You may have to define these a little bit more because obviously a regular layperson is not going to know what function means in terms of their teeth, right? You could give examples, e.g. TMD, how I bite, symmetry with my bite, I don't know, you can look it up. 3, health of my gums and teeth, or 4, longevity of my bite, or something like that. There's some of these kind of overlap a little bit. It's great to know which one you could put it in kind of a Gen Z kind of slang, but which one do you vibe with more? Which one is the biggest concern for you in terms of your oral health? It's great to know because one thing that they said in the webinar, which I never thought about, was if they say aesthetics, then you make sure to use the iOS to the outcome simulator with the in-face. It's really, really, really critical to do the in-face. It's just another 30 seconds to a minute to use the phone and then make sure you upload that wide smile photo so that you can get the simulation in the actual face. If they didn't pick aesthetics, they're not going to be that motivated by seeing their face in the thing. So just another minute, you should shave a minute off. But if they pick longevity, health, or function, that's the direction you want to kind of gear your results. They even gave an example on one of the webinars I've been on, and sorry if you were on this webinar and you've heard this before, but I thought it was so smart. If they pick function, or if they're an engineer or a scientist, then you really want to focus more on the scientific portion or the health portion if they're a doctor, or they're in the medical field. If they're more of like an Instagram influencer or really into beauty, they come in looking all fancy schmancy with their makeup and their hair, then maybe you want to focus on the aesthetics. So you got to kind of gear your pitch, and I hate to say pitch, but gear your treatment plan in something that makes sense for them. And I do this all the time with kids and adults. I mean, I kind of size up who I got. I chit chat with them a little bit about what they do outside of school, what their favorite subject is. I mean, a kid that's super studious and does band and, plays 3 varsity sports is going to be really different than a kid that's just gaming all the time. I'm not saying there's a problem with that, or maybe they're a coder, but that's a different type of kid in terms of what things are going to concern for them, what things they're interested in, what direction they might want to go. And same thing with the parents, depending on their education level and what things they do for a living and how they present themselves, you might need to change the way you do things a little bit. So just a thought, because, let's say you have some engineer who's, wearing clothes from 1980 and doesn't seem to care about his appearance, hair's not that washed, dandruff, I don't know, frumpily clothes. If you start talking about your smile so pretty, yeah, it's not gonna work. He's not gonna care. As opposed to somebody that's, an influencer and comes in all fancy schmancy. So anyways, you guys get the idea. Okay. Another idea, I actually did not know about this. There's something called the time-lapse tool. And there's a button on there, and I was not familiar with it, where if you've taken serial or sequential iOS scans, like I talk about taking the wellness scans every year, you took one in 2023, you took one in 2024, you took one in 2025, you can push the time-lapse tool. And if you're not sure, I'm sure it's in all the ITero training videos. You can probably Google it on how to use the time-lapse tool. It actually will show you the wear in millimeters. So there's going to actually be calculations on how much wear happened between 2023 and 2024, or how much crowding happened between additional crowding, 2023, 24, 2025. In millimeters, it's going to be something, it's not going to be something you're probably going to notice with your eyeball, but if you got the measurements, because this is so incredibly detailed oriented down to the microns, micromillimeters, that's pretty cool. So someone who's very detail oriented is going to be like, oh no, I see my rate of wear is happening at 0.1 millimeters per year. I mean, something like that, at this rate, we're gonna hit dentin by this date, that kind of stuff. If we hit dentin, what happens? Well, then once we hit the pulp, then, because they're aware, we're gonna have to get a root canal and a crown and a buildup and or an implant. This is the cost for that. Well, heck, it's gonna be a heck of a lot cheaper for us to just go ahead and straighten your teeth now and get rid of that premature wear. That's going to be a much more affordable option, and a lot less discomfort and, other things too. And every time, you get, I don't have to tell you guys this, every time you get a crown or whatever, I mean, you're always going to have to get another one. It's not going to last forever. It's every time it gets a little bigger, a filling a little bigger, and eventually you lose a tooth, right? So, our price point is only this. You may or may not have insurance. Why not just get rid of that problem now while you can, This is just a suggestion, but pretty cool, right? Another suggestion, one thing that some doctors don't like is when you do all these wellness scans, how much it clutters up your dashboard. And I do work with a few doctors, and good for them doing wellness scans on everybody. And they have literally hundreds of patients in their action required tool. And it's hard to find patients, right? And occasionally, eventually, I think they get timed out. They get archived after X amount of months. I don't know if it's 6 or 7 or 8 or whatever, but they'll archive them automatically. So I get CC'd on so many emails, and it'll say, okay, your case will be expired in 30 days, So they're going to archive them eventually, and they're going to push out. But it's so hard when there's hundreds of patients. So you can actually take your records and submit the patient under a prospect tab, which I didn't even know existed. Again, I learned something new. If you go up to the top, it's usually, at least on mine, it's the second tab over. You have to submit it separately. It's not add a new patient, it's under prospects. If you put it under prospects, it doesn't clutter up your inbox. So if you're not sure if this patient is interested at all, if it's just a wellness scan, they've never showed any interest, you kind of started the conversation, no nothing, then just do it under prospect. That way you're not cluttering it up. And when you have all these prospects in there, what a great opportunity on an administrative day to go in and just follow up with them. I like to make sure that they know that the quotes that we give and the treatment plans we give last for 60 days or 90 days max, certainly no more than 90. If it's an adult, 30 days if it's a kid or teen. And after that, we do one set of complimentary Clinchecks or, whatever per year, outcome simulation per year. And after that, if they want more in a year, there might be an additional fee for an additional scan. You could say might, obviously probably not. But what we don't want is we don't want them coming back every month. Oh, can I do it again? Or what's the quote now? Pull the trigger so we don't have to bring them back if they want to do that. So use that prospect tab. All right, what else? Let's see. Okay, so they go ahead, you get the data, you show the outcome simulation, you make sure you talk to them briefly. This should be no more than 1 minute. This is the hygienist or the assistant. They're not doing a diagnosis. All they're doing is showing the outcome simulation, which is AI and the computer that moves the teeth together. And you can even tell them that, look, this is just AI. This is not the doctor making an actual diagnosis or treatment plan for you. It's just AI kind of showing what your teeth would look like, nice, straight, and a good bite. Just want to kind of show you what it looks like. It does look like it is showing that you have crowding. It is showing that you have wear here. This is what's going on. And you could definitely go in to the time lapse and show them in millimeters if that's something they wanted to see. Try to keep it under a minute, minute and a half. Obviously, if they have questions and they're super engaged, then you can answer all their questions and say, hey, let's bring doctor in when it's his time and he can answer more questions. If they're like tuning you out and not interested, okay, great. Just wanted to show you that just so you know, we just capturing the data just so we can keep an eye on your bite, just to make sure nothing's getting worse. That's all the only reason we do it. Leave it, let it go, move on. Like I said, the great thing about having that content in there, and I think I've told you guys that before, is like, for example, during COVID or, if you ever have an even emergency or there's a problem, or mudslides or fires or whatever, things get shut down for another pandemic. Even if you can't get in the office, even if you're on vacation and your office is closed, if they are interested on an administrative day to go ahead and proceed with either aligners or retainers or a split, you've got that wellness scan in there. You can do bleaching trays. You can do so much with that wellness scan that makes production without having a butt in the chair. All you gotta do is push a button and collect some money. Really easy, right? You'd be surprised when you follow up how many people pull the trigger. They may not pull the trigger that day, but when you follow up, they might pull it later. So just think about that. It's just easy ways to bring production into the office on non-doctor days. What else? Another great idea, and I think we've done that before, is to look into the benefits in your area. You should know if you are in network, and I don't think we're mostly in network, we're mostly out of network for ortho, so it makes life a lot easier. I don't know as much about insurance as everyone does. We've always outsourced our insurance. The consultant we use is Bonsi Popat. I actually have her information. She's so great, and she's a good friend of mine. I've known her for almost a decade. She is a Harvard MBA who runs an orthopedo office. She's brilliant, and she does consulting on the side. So you should definitely check her out if you have insurance questions. I mean, one insurance oopsie mistake is gonna more than cover all you need to know from her for a lifetime. So I would just get it done so you don't make oopsies, because I've certainly done plenty of oopsies in my life where I just didn't get paid because I screwed something up with the insurance, and if you screwed it up, well, you're just not getting paid. You can't try to collect from it later. It's a write-off. So check that out. But one great tip that we do is we know which insurances for adults actually have pretty good ortho benefits. A lot of times it's teachers, it's firefighters, it's city and state, city and county. So a lot of union ones have great adults. Sometimes they have almost full coverage. We have some that have military that have almost full coverage, $4,000 or $5,000. Heck, it's a once lifetime thing. If they haven't used it, what if it goes away? What if they change jobs? It's like throwing cash out the window. Might as well use it, right? And plenty cover 50%, cover 2,000, cover 3,000. So know which ones are good and do an audit on administrative day. Run through all the patients that have that insurance and do a blast, do an email blast, call them, hey, just want to let you know that you still have this insurance. Some of this insurance changes. Do you want to get in for a wellness scan to see what we can do with that insurance money, before it's gone? So that's a great suggestion to dig into the good insurance. Usually it's not an issue for kids and teens, but the max age could be 18, 19, 21, or 26. So you should know which ones they have. And when you pre-auth your insurance, or when they're coming in for their new patient visits or whatever, and you're pre-authing insurance, do an audit and say, oh yeah, this one has ortho coverage of this amount. Well, let's make sure we discuss that, because a lot of times they don't know they have this. And then they're super game to do it, right? So that's a great idea. Another great suggestion is to make sure that, just a friendly reminder that insurance doesn't usually pay up front. It usually pays in drips and drops every quarter. It might be over 6 months, it might be over 12 months. Usually it's within 12 months. If you put down that the case is only going to take 6 months, which is why I really don't want you to do that, always say 12 months. Because sometimes they're going to make it a more limited case and you're not going to get paid as much as you would. Then the patient's going to have to pay more. They're going to be mad because you didn't tell them about that. But if you put 12 months, it should be safe. Even if you finish the case earlier, retention is still a phase of treatment, so you can still be billing active treatment. So that's a good idea. You also want to do a very, what do I call it? Secret shopping to find out what the orthodontists and other general dentists in your area are charging for their aligner treatment. But remember, not all treatment is the same. Are they actually using Invisalign? Are they using Invisalign 5? Are they using Invisalign 3? Are they using Invisalign Moderate? Are they using Invisalign Light? Are they using Invisalign Express? Are they using an off-brand of aligners? You have to make sure you're comparing apples to apples and not apples to oranges. Are they including records? Are they assessing an additional fee for records? Hopefully they're not. Are they including retainers, or are they assessing an additional fee for retainers? Hopefully they're including at least one set, but usually you're going to do way more than one set in a lifetime. How does that work? What's the cost for that? So you need to compare all the apples to apples and make sure what you're offering makes sense in a price point. You should be a step under what all the orthodontists are. You should be a smidge either under in cost or over in terms of coverage, what you give them, for that case. And as long as what you give them is better, than what everyone else is giving them, and or your price point is slightly under. You don't want to be the cheapest. You want to be like second from the bottom cheapest, and or you want to give more stuff. And you got to make sure when you explain it, this is all we offer, because more commonly than not, a lot of people, they'll get their interest sparked. Wow, that's really interesting. And then they'll be like, shoot, I'm going to go do a consult at a couple other places and see what they have. They're not always going to remember what you include. So you need to go over it. We include this, 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 and this. We don't assess any additional fees, unless you've lost like 10 aligners or you don't show up for your appointments, or something like that. Otherwise, it's just a flat rate and everything like that. Because you want to make sure that you're giving them a good value for what you offer. So that's a great tip there. So that was a lot of information for you. I hope it was really helpful. Again, price point, what I charged 15 years ago was $7,000 for Invisalign, and now our office is charging $5,500. So price point's gone way down, but there are so many programs that are out there where you can join like a collective and be part of like a mini DSO. It's not like a real DSO, but so you get volume discounts. There's a lot of creativity in the whole ITero arena. So, I encourage you to talk to Invisalign, find out ways to get your lab fees down from the get-go. A lot of times they have challenges where if you do X amount of cases in 6 months, they're going to give you the diamond for a year. There's so much stuff I hear people get. Granted, we're not getting that in our office. I think we've had some challenges. It's not just me that's affiliated with our offices, so there's a lot of other people, and I'm not saying that my husband always runs things the way I would run them, but, hey, to each his own. He's the general dentist, so he's the one that's there actually doing the work. But I know a lot of doctors that are just crushing it by doing things this way. So, that's pretty much all I got for you, but hopefully that's awesome. Oh, one more thought. I didn't know about this, but you can. There's some additional codes. There's one for study models. I think it's D4070. I don't think we were even doing this, where you can charge that out. It just brings an extra $100 or so in, but hey, that's revenue that's going to cover at least your retainers. Make sure you charge that, although I have heard that code can pull from GP, so if they have a lot of restorative work, you better watch out and not do that. But get whatever you can, but no, you're not going to get paid for retainers or really probably anything else. Sometimes you will for x-rays. Ooh, another thing, this actually happened this morning with 2 doctors. Remember, taking x-rays is standard of care. You can't necessarily bill insurance for those. This is part of ortho. So you might have to take panos every year. You got to have a way to get that x-rays. If you don't have a panoramic machine, then you're going to have to take FMX every year, possibly. For progress x-rays. You might be doing that in the office anyways, but you can't let a case just go on for years and years and years without taking progress x-rays. So if you're not the GP and already doing that, well, you need to figure out how to get those x-rays, and you shouldn't be charging the patient for those. Those should be all included. So make sure you have the x-rays you need, and you have a way to get x-rays to monitor the roots. Make sure they're not blunted, make sure they're not going through the bone. All right, that's all I got. I hope that sparked you to just crush it with your ITero. And if you have questions, we'd be glad to help you. All right, take care.